Some of you might know that before I did this, I was a radio host. Now, for the most part, it was talk radio, but I also did the spinning the hits kind of radio as well. Now, I know what you're thinking. You, with that voice, you did radio? Well, like I said, I did do radio. I was on radio. But I've been reviewing a game that sort of took me back in that time. And this game is called Killer Frequency. Now, aside from playing the hits and having to deal with annoying calls, you also have a serial murderer who's running around town killing people and causing this whole town to go into crisis. And this is something that you have to deal with. Now, that is not typically what you have to do as a DJ, but sometimes it happens. And this case is even more unbelievable with this ridiculous premise that honestly is kind of funny and just a bit campy, because what happens is you were a big market radio guy and you got demoted and now you're into the smaller market, this small one-horse town, or for this town, a 4-cop town. Now, at the beginning of your shift, you get a phone call from the dispatch/911 operator who says that she just witnessed the death of the police chief. And there was a deputy there too, but the deputy is out cold. There is no other option right now. This officer must travel to a different town to go call for reinforcements because there is no option, and apparently all the phone lines are down or something. Even though people are calling into the radio, doesn't make sense, but don't worry about it. That's not important. What's important is the cops are leaving the town to go get help. And so you're expecting that you're going to have to do some sort of emergency message or something like that since you're the only radio station in town. Well, no. You can be of service. You see, you are now going to be the 911 operator who not only has to just field calls, but also help these people by giving them instructions on how to get away from this mass murder as he's terrorizing the town. Well, armed with your wits, a microphone, and your handy producer, you are ready to aid the town. Now, most of this is going to be puzzle solving, and timed puzzle solving at that. Now, I will be honest, more times than none, I really felt like, well, why am I dealing with this? I just moved here. I don't know these people. My producer's been here since, I don't know, she grew up here basically. She knows everybody. Why isn't she the one who's solving most of these puzzles? Because most of the puzzles have to do with knowing the townspeople and understanding who's better at this or who to call, who lives where. I mean, you're dealing with maps, you're dealing with directories, you're dealing with all sorts of stuff, and most of the stuff that you have to learn while you're doing it is where it seems like she actually knows a lot of this information. So why is it on you to do that? And I point this out only because this is one of many things in the game that sort of has you suspend logic for a little while. You know, just like the fact that people can call you. Obviously, phone lines are working. People have cell phones. Well, they don't have cell phones, but they do have landlines and they are working. Honestly, some people might have cell phones now that I think about it, because there are a few calls where you're talking to people while they're moving and they're out and around. They probably shouldn't be able to call you. There's stuff like that, by the way, but also that no one can call another town's police. Like, that's just not a possibility, yet they can call you. Like, none of that makes sense. So all of this logic you just have to kind of throw away. And honestly, it's kind of fun because it really lends into the campiness of the game, and that's exactly what this game is. It doesn't try to be anything more than that. It's not trying to be philosophical or deep or have you question the meaning of life. No, it's a horror game that is really kind of mixed into puzzle solving and jump scares. And yes, you do get involved in it more than just behind the mic. There are a few instances where you find out that the killer might be closer than what you think. I'm giving no spoilers, but I am going to say, just because that seems like I'm leading you to something, it's not your producer. No, Peggy is not the killer. Anyway, aside from that, I have to say the puzzles are actually pretty enjoyable, and they're fun. They're quite interactive with all of the material that you need to collect. They're interesting. They're written well, I believe, but I will say they're not the easiest to overcome. Some of them, yes, but a lot of them, I feel like I had everything, mapped out, everything figured out, and then I ended up being wrong, and I ended up having to look over it again, sometimes even a third time before I actually figured out what the right answer was. And with that being said, this game does not give you much mercy. If you can catch the game before it automatically saves and you can restart it again, you might be able to redo the puzzle, but for the most part, you have to live with your decision, or the townspeople have to not live with your decision. And I think this is where you can see the replayability of this game, as you can go back and forth and try to see how the game would have turned out had you saved more people, or, if certain people die. Basically, I'm gonna go ahead and say that there's a high probability that you can at least play this twice, without even more, because there's many puzzles I still don't really know what the answer was. Coming out of it and actually finishing the game, even kind of going back through a second time, I still wasn't sure on a couple of them. That might make you a little apprehensive about the difficulty of them, but honestly, a lot of it is just being thorough in your reading and taking notes, essentially. Whether it have to be like on your phone, taking pictures, or just remembering. And as it should be, really the puzzles are the best part of the game. And in its own way, the writing is also done really well. As far as the puzzles are considered, and just knowing the town and the world building that's in the game, that's done fantastically. Now, I will say, yes, like the whole thing about logic and suspending belief on certain things, it's not done so great. But as per the game, as per a campy horror type game, it's pretty good writing. I will also say too, graphically, the game looks really good. I was pretty impressed with what they did on that front. So does that mean that this game is a 10 out of 10? Is it perfect? No, not at all. In fact, it has some major issues. One of them, and I think this is the biggest one for me, is controls. Controls and button mapping are so bad in this game. The fact that there is times when you have to be moving and you have to be interacting with things rather quickly, at times it feels like it's almost impossible to hit a button. You have to just move just right. And it's like, not only is the analog stick, your movement, very sensitive, but then it also isn't sensitive at all. And I know that sounds really hard to explain, but imagine just trying to move the pointer and you'll move it just a little bit and it'll go too far. And then you try to move it to kind of tap it into place and it won't go enough. Like, it's very, very infuriating, especially when you're trying to find specific things or interact with specific things that are there. Flipping through records was one of those things that was really annoying, or just hitting all of the different buttons that you have to that are on the control panel. And there are plenty of situations where you've got to replace fuses, or you've got to grab certain magazines or maps or things like that, and it becomes infuriating. It really does. But that's not the only part. The other issue is interacting with certain objects, like whether it be doors or trash cans or anything that you have to move. Well, you have to hit the A button. So imagine your controller. You see the A button. Well, you have to hit and hold the A button and then use the right analog stick to move the object. So that means that you have to move your entire right hand and use your pointer finger on the A button and your right thumb on the right analog stick. It's just incredibly unergonomic. I don't know why they had it set up that way. It's awful, and it just feels awkward as heck. But aside from that, this game is a rather quick-paced game. The storytelling, the puzzle solving, all of that is really fast-paced. And it's a good pace, by the way, especially for this game. And even the graphical performance and the frame rates and all of that are really complementary to a faster pace. It's just smooth. It just feels good. But all of that comes to a crashing halt because of the controls. And for me, I just can't overlook that. And the price of the game is interesting. Like, it's $24.99 over here, which makes it sort of worth it in value because, again, like I said, all those other things are really good about the game. But then at the same time, you're thinking it's an indie, and although as an indie game, it's kind of on the higher priced indie game scale. And when you think about the fact that it's short, the controls aren't very good, and you have some issues like that, it seems a bit pricey. So I'd almost wait for a sale unless you're really excited to check it out. Because understand, it's not a bad game. It's still really fun. It's well written. It's, that campy horror style. It's just the controls bog it down. The time of the game is not great, although it does add for replayability, so there's definitely that. But if I was going to give this game a number grade, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. I almost want to say 6.5 to be honest, but I think I would say it earns that 7 out of 10 because, again, it's a solid game. It's just got some pretty major issues that I hope get fixed. Some of the sensitivity on the controls, the button mapping, the length of the game, all of those things are issues, but I've seen a lot worse come out and a lot more expensive. So, state of gaming right now. Anyway, though, let me know if you guys are interested in this game. If you're interested in any horror games, do you like that horror puzzle type games? Have you been looking forward to this one coming out, or are there any games that you're looking forward to? Anything and everything down in the comment section is much appreciated. I love y'all. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.